Hi everybody, greetings from a rather nice day here in Cape Town today. I attended a memorial service a couple of weeks ago, and I have to say that the absence of some familiar faces and the rather long roll call that was read out served to remind me that time is marching on, and that those of us who feel that they still have something to share about their experience in Rhodesia ought to do so. I have spoken quite a lot on this channel about my time in the Rhodesian military, but there are some things that I haven't really touched on, and I'd like to do so today if I may. I've been a bit reluctant to talk about this aspect, and I honestly don't know why. I can't put my finger on it, but it is part of my story, and it wouldn't be complete without me relating this. So with your permission, I'd like to share this with you in two parts. When I was about 8 years old, there was great excitement at our school. The teacher gave us each a pamphlet to take home and give to our parents, and this explained that a certain number of pupils would have the opportunity of attending a game park. And I duly went home with this piece of paper and handed it to my folks. So somehow my old man scraped together the money that was needed as a contribution toward the costs, and we all set off. I think the trip lasted about 4 days, and it was a wonderful experience for a young child. I came back, and then I got ill, and I got better again after a while. You know how kids are. And then this started again. I started feeling hot, and I was unsteady on my feet, and I couldn't breathe properly, and it meant a couple of days off school. And then I'd be okay for a few weeks, and then this dreaded affliction would rear its ugly head again. And in time I began to call it the dreaded chifua. Chifua is a sort of a Shona slang word for flu. That's the only way I could describe it. And so I ended up, as a youngster, in and out of doctors' rooms. Now, you know, when you're young, you haven't got much negotiating power, you know. Your folks tell you to do stuff and you just do it. And, I found it rather inconvenient, even if you're a kid, you've got plans. There's things you want to do when school's out. Now we're going to the doctor this afternoon. Oh, not again. We were there just the other day. Okay, well, you go wash your hands and wash your face, and you're off to the doctor. And, this didn't go on for a few weeks or a few months. This became the pattern of my life for a few years, and eventually the idea began to take seed in my mind that these doctors don't know what they're doing. Oh, they're very good at prodding you and, inflicting a bit of pain and jabbing you and so on. Oh, that was good. But results, I didn't see any results. I just kept on getting this flu. Time comes for high school. So I'm about like halfway through the first year when one of the doctors tell my parents, no, they've had to refer me to a highly specialized man who's going to treat me. So I end up in the consulting rooms of a Mr. Graham. Now, he was a very eminent surgeon in Rhodesia. And I don't know why he was called Mr. and not Doctor. No one has ever been able to explain that to me. But even on his letterhead, I noticed at the time, Mr. Graham. So he examined me and he said, you've got to have an operation. Well, that was a bit of alarming news, even for a youngster. I mean, I didn't feel like I needed that kind of an adventure in my life. But what can you do? I said this before, you just do what your parents tell you to do. So I end up Salisbury Central Hospital, and I'm there for like a couple of weeks. And Mr. Graham cuts me open and takes out a chunk of my one lung. And, you know, I recover in time, and I'm back at school. But now, suddenly things change at school. Like behind my back, there's been consultation taking place between whoever and my parents. So I'm excused sports. I don't have to go for physical training. And, you know, the worst of all eventually was that I was excused from cadets. Now, that troubled me greatly, you know. I mean, cadets was okay, and I enjoyed it. But now, no, hand in your boots, hand in your kit, no more cadets. But all was not lost, because I managed to ease my way down to the drill hall, and at the back of the drill hall was a building called T.S. Mashona, and it was the training ship for the sea cadets. Now, they didn't bother about medical exams or ask me any questions. I mean, they welcomed me with open arms. And I loved it. Every Friday night down there, and oh man, I should have brought my station card with me, because I still have it. You know, I could have shown you. Port Quarterdeck, that's where I was. And you know, you'd get there, run up the gangplank, salute the quarterdeck, and drop your station card into the cap of the leading seaman standing there. And in this way, they would take the roll. It was great, you know. Semaphore, Morse code, you know, marching, all these, everything. Our standard, I was told, was up to the very standard that the Royal Navy employed. So, oh man, that was great. And then the time come for me to finish school and to go to Llewellyn Barracks. Well, you know what it's like when you arrive there. It's total bedlam, you know. Nobody really knows what to do. And there's a number of tables, and you have to fill in forms, and there's all sorts of procedures and stuff that you have to go through as they process you. But at some point, you end up in front of a doctor. And so here I was, standing in front of a captain, and he looked at my papers and that, and then, you know, he gave me a quick examination, off with your shirt, took a look at my chest, and saw that scar. So he asks me, what happened there? I said, I had an operation, sir. What for? Now I'm at a little bit of a loss now, because, you know, I can't discuss this thing on very strict medical terms, because I actually have no idea. I had heard the word bronchiectasis bandied about, but much later in my life I was told that's nonsense. Where did you hear that word? Bronchiectasis is a chronic illness. You would have died years ago if you had it. So, you know, but that's all I knew. And so I said, bronchiectasis. He looked at me and he listened to my chest and he said, listen, you know, this is the army. I can't accept you. You've got to be A1 fit, you know, if you want to be here. So I said, please, sir, you know, I desperately would like to do my service, you know, please. So he thought, and he tapped his pen on the side of the table, and he pondered over this thing. And he said, look, okay, my boy, here's the story. I'm going to pass you, but you must promise me, if you find the training too difficult, that you'll report to your staff sergeant and tell him that you can't cope. Okay, would you do that? We got a deal. I said, yes, sir, we got a deal. Wow, he passes me, A1 fit. Down to the store with all the rest of the guys, pick up our kit, yeah, get yelled at again, all the way back to the barrack room. A company I was, yeah. So there each of us piles our kit on the beds, and now we got to try and sort it out as best as we can. Fortunately, here and there are guys whose brothers have been through the process, you know, and given them advice, and so, you know, you're picking up quite a bit of information on how to bone your boots, and, you know, those dreaded brasses, you know, how to flatten them and to polish them up nicely. And So at the far end of the barrack room, I look and I see, and I hadn't noticed him before. Lo and behold, it's my friend Felix from Salisbury. Now let me tell you about Felix. Felix is a guy who was streetwise before the word was invented. And there he is sitting on the last bed space next to the back door. And he's just checking everybody, eh? He's making no effort to do anything with his kit. It's as he dumped it on the bed, just lying there in a pile. So I leave what I'm doing and I hurry over there. Hey, Felix, man, how's the taxi? You know, just to let him know that I've seen him and that. We greet each other, exchange a few pleasantries, and then I've got to leave him because, I've got stuff to do. So is everybody. But not him, eh? You just see him. He's just watching everybody. Now, knowing Felix, I should have realized something was going to happen. The next morning, when we all open our eyes, wow, like a cat, Felix is gone. Gone during the night. Slipped out of that back door, past all those armed guards, down the road, and he's gone. This guy hasn't even done any training, but he's as good as any SAS operative. And I never saw him again. I heard that he surfaced in Joburg. Folks saw him there, and he was prowling the streets there. Yeah, so Felix was gone. But never mind. I was also delighted to see another friend of mine, Lay Jessen, a musician, singer, guitarist, excellent guy, brother motorcyclist, brother in arms now, and brother in the Lord. A wonderful guy who had a great influence on my life in years to come. And I'm happy to say I'm still in touch with him. This very morning, we exchanged a few words on WhatsApp. So Lay was there, and I was very, very happy to see him. And so, yeah, we go about our training now, okay, first phase. And we're doing weapon training. And this dreaded chifua takes a grip of me. We're in Matabele land. It's the middle of summer. The sun is blazing out of a blue Rhodesian sky. And I'm shivering with cold. I'm not feeling good, eh? Really, I'm not. But I'm trying to cover it up so as nobody can see it. Llewellyn is no place for a malingerer, eh? And you know how quickly they call you a spastic and I don't want any of that stuff. So I'm trying to do the best that I can. But it's surely difficult, all the amount of willpower in the world sometimes can't overcome the weaknesses of our bodies. So our staff sergeant, Harry Springer, a wonderful man, and I'm sure that any of you who met him and knew him would agree with me. Honestly, top-class fellow. So he sees that I'm not okay. We get formed up, we're going to be marched off now, and I can see he's glancing at me every now and then. Lay is standing in the rank behind me, directly behind me. So he says to Lay, keep an eye on your buddy. If he falls, please catch him, okay? So Lay does so. He watches out for me. I struggled through the end of that session. Staff Springer comes to me and he says, listen, I'd like you to go down to the hospital, okay? And I think Lay helped me get down there. Okay, so this must have been about Wednesday, eh? We get to the hospital, they stick me in bed, which is all very nice, and I go to sleep. Because really, that's all that helped, eh? When I get that flu, as long as I can sleep just for a day, maybe a day and a half or so, I'm fine after that. But this time I had it bad, eh? Anyway, the doctor comes in the morning, and he checks me every morning. And the army have got a sort of standard method of treating you. 2 aspirins and a glass of water. There you go. Get it down your throat. That'll sort you out. And sure enough, by about Friday, I'm feeling okay, eh? But I'm stressing. I got stuff on my mind that's really bothering me. And what's bothering me is that Saturday morning is full kit inspection, and I'm in hospital. I can't prepare nothing. So that morning, the doctor said to me, "You're looking quite good, eh? I think tomorrow morning I can let you go." So that's Saturday morning. Now, if he lets me go and I go down there to the barrack room and I got nothing prepared, whoa, what is that? Maybe a week's jankers? That's running up and down like every half hour in different kit to the guard room and back. Oh, I don't need that, eh? And it's working on my nerves. So as the day goes on, I can see, no, he's going to discharge me in the morning. I'm ready to go now, but I mean, the doc ain't nowhere around for me to talk to him. So it starts getting overcast in the afternoon, you know. Really bad thunderstorm brewing up. So I start thinking, hey, what if I'm not so good tomorrow, you know? What if I'm coughing and sneezing a little bit and I've got a little bit of a temperature? Surely they'll keep me for another day or two. But how do I induce that? And then I hope you don't think I'm crazy, eh? It made a lot of sense to me at the time, but not now. But anyway, I was desperate. That's my only defense. So about 9 o'clock that night, I eased my way over to the bathroom, eh? By now the storm is raging outside. The thunder is crashing, the lightning is flashing, the rain is pouring down out of the heavens, eh? So I close the door, take off my pajamas, climb over the bath, open the window, and as naked as the day I was born, I slip out into the night. So I'm standing there in the dark with the with the storm raging around me. And I'm quite happy because I'm saying to myself, boy, I'm going to get double pneumonia from this. At least, you know, I don't have to worry about that full kit inspection. But then another thought occurs to me. Hey, is there a guard here at the hospital? Now, I'd been at Llewellyn long enough to know now more or less where the various patrol areas were. I mean, I did guard myself with everybody else. Never was I sent to the hospital. And never did I hear anybody talk about a guard being posted at the hospital. But we weren't the only people doing guard at Llewellyn at that time. The Rhodesian African Rifles also did guard. They'd come every evening in a truck and they'd debus. I'd watch them sometimes. And if you were walking around the hangars, say, you know, you could sometimes see them walking around certain hangars that had been allocated to them. I don't know why that was, but that was the situation. And the thought occurred to me, perhaps maybe the hospital was one of their beats. What if a guard comes around the corner and just at that moment there's a lightning flash and here he sees the stark, naked, white apparition in front of him. The guy's going to go crazy. He's going to poke me full of holes with his bayonet before he even asks who goes there. So that rather sobered me up. And besides which, time was passing. I mean, I stood out there a while, eh? And I thought, it's not going to be long before the orderly knocks on the door, and the next thing they're going to push their way in there, find my pajamas lying on the ground and know me. How on earth am I going to explain that to them? Oh, dear me, perish the thought. So I go back through the window, dry myself off, jammies on, off to my bed, and I get into bed and I lie there. Now I know I'm going to go, I'm going to be coughing, I'm going to be wheezing. No, nothing. Before I know it, I'm fast asleep. But you know, I had a great night's sleep. I woke up feeling better than I'd ever done before, right as rain. Oh, which, you know, that was a little, forgive me, that was a little disappointing under the circumstances. So here comes the doctor. And he listens to me and he says, yeah, like I thought, you're fine. You can get dressed and you can go off to your barrack room now, and good luck. I said, sir, please, you know, you've got to understand one thing. It's full kit inspection this morning, and I've made no preparations. I'm going to be in serious trouble if I pitch up there at that barrack room now. So he thinks about it and he says, okay, well, that's not a problem. I'll discharge you at lunchtime. How's that? I said, thank you, sir. He said, I'll send some breakfast for you and then, you know, just take it easy until it's time for you to go. Whoa, so I escaped that. Okay, so that was good. Then we get to the end of our first phase. The lay goes off to artillery, so he's gone. But that's okay, there's still other folk there that I know. Nigel Ennis, Hannes Foster from Umtali, and one or two other guys that I had met after, after coming to Llewellyn. And amongst them was a most unlikely fellow by the name of Peter Nieswand. Now, if you were a student of Rhodesian political history, the name would immediately ring a bell with you. Peter made himself very unpopular to the point where he was actually deported out of the country for his political views. He was a journalist, but a bit of an activist as well. Now, somehow, he and I struck up a very close relationship. We were very, very good friends. I enjoyed this man's company. And, I mean, I don't think that I'm a liberal by any means, but somehow we never seem to have any differences of opinion. And but Peter was a square peg in a round hole there. He didn't fit into that barrack room because of his views. And I had a friend of mine there that I went to school with, Scotty McNiven. Excellent guy, really, very nice man, and easy to get on with. I thought so. I came into that barrack room one day, and there was a massive verbal fight going on between Peter and Scotty. I mean, I came in at the tail end of it, and I don't know what occasioned it. All I heard, it was something to do with a demonstration outside, a political demonstration outside Highfields Township. I don't know what Peter had said. He got Scotty really riled up, and it looked like it would almost end up in a punch-up. So, Peter realized that, he just didn't really fit in there with the guys. So he says to me one day, Martin, why don't we volunteer for something else and get out of the rifle company? So I think about it, and I thought, well, what did you have in mind? He says, I think we should go to Armoured Cars. Armoured Cars, yeah. Well, it was a Saturday afternoon when we had this conversation, and I mean, we were free for the afternoon, so we walk off down to the stables where they keep the staghounds. Gates were open, so we wandered in, looked around, and I thought to myself, hey, I could really go for this. This looks very interesting. So Peter and I put our names down as volunteers to go to Armoured Cars. I got in and Peter didn't. And the reason was because there was a minimum qualification as regards your driver's license, and that had to be a heavy duty license. Peter had an ordinary civilian car license, whereas I had experience driving tractors on farms, and they took that into account and said that's good enough. So yeah, we were a very small troop, and Peter went off, I think, to engineers, but I didn't see him again. I used to meet him occasionally in Salisbury, and we'd stand on the side of the road and talk, and then eventually, as I said, he left the country, and I lost all contact with him. So yeah, now in Armoured Cars. And the Chief finds me there. Oh. Sergeant Major Harper Ronald takes one look at me one day and he says, hey, you're not fit to work, off to hospital. So there I go down to the hospital again. And this time they take one look at me and they say, we're not treating you, get in the ambulance, you're going straight to Bulawayo Hospital. Oh no, I didn't like that very much, but what can I do? In the ambulance, there we drive off to Bulawayo, into hospital, into a ward, into a bed in the corner. There's an old man in the bed next to me. He passes away during the night. Bit of a disturbance when they come to remove the body, but okay, that's all right. Next morning, I'm feeling kind of okay, eh? So the doctor there comes and examines me, and he says, I can't find anything wrong with you. I'm so used to that by now, you know. I mean, this is what I hear all the time. Nobody knows what's wrong with me, and nobody can fix me, and nobody can explain anything. So I'm sent back to Llewellyn, and eventually I pass out there, and off to 1st Battalion, Royal Rhodesia Regiment, headquarters at the drill hall in Salisbury. So there I'm back again in armoured cars, and I'm enjoying it. It's okay. And of course, being a territorial soldier, I'm not there all the time. You know, the parades are, you know, they're infrequent. So the chances of me getting flu at the exact same time when I've got to be on parade, I won't say are remote, but you know, they're not very good of that happening. So most of the time, my dreaded chifua didn't affect my service with 1 RRR. But at work, it was a different story. Now, I'd come out of the army. Somewhere along the line, my old man had met somebody who works in a factory. A man from South Africa who, when I first met him, told me very proudly that he was from Malmesbury. And people from Malmesbury don't take nonsense from other people. So that was my introduction. Well, he was my foreman, my boss, if you like, in the factory. And hard taskmaster, hey. And and sometimes the chifua would come. And like in the army, I'd, you know, kind of cover it up and put on a brave face and just try and struggle through the day with it. And most of the time I managed, and other times I didn't. And then I know I just need to get into bed and just need to sleep a little bit, and I'll be fine. And I'd say to him, sir, I'm not feeling too good, you know, is there any possibility I can go off? No, you can't go off, there's work to be done. What do you want to go off for? Come. Have you changed that machine yet? We're waiting for it. So that was the kind of environment that I had to work in. And then one day, I really had it bad. So I said to him, sir, I really, I'm sorry, but I'm begging you, please, can you let me go home? No, I can't let you go home. Go and see Josiah. Go and see Josiah. Now, Josiah was our African medical orderly. He had a little room adjacent to the factory. It was a big factory, eh? Big staff, plenty of black workers there. And the company that I worked for, they didn't skimp on this kind of thing when it came to the welfare of their staff. I have to say that. So they had a little surgery there with Josiah. And if any of our African staff needed any medical attention, they were supposed to go and see him. But it was a little bit different for the whiteys, you see, for the Europeans. Because, the Europeans, they can afford to have a doctor of their own. So they weren't really expected to go to Josiah for any medical needs. And I think most of them would have preferred to have, rather gone to their own doctor and be booked off nicely there. And, if they got a cold or whatever, stay at home until they recover from it. So he says to me, go to Josiah. So this is very strange. Nobody has ever been told, no European there in that factory has been told to go and see the medical orderly. Not that I have an issue with it, but I think he thought I had an issue with it. And I think his reasoning was, Martin won't go there. He's too proud to go to Josiah, so he'll just, bite the bullet and keep working. And that's fine for me because, I did give him the opportunity of getting some medical treatment. No, but I go off to Josiah because, I'm not feeling lekker. And so I get there. Now, Josiah, when he's not seeing people, had a little bench outside his surgery. And he would sit there, I won't say staring into space, but he would sit there very quietly. He was a very unusual man to my mind. Quiet. He didn't mix with white people. He didn't mix with black people. He didn't mix with anybody. Folk would walk past him and not greet him, and he doesn't greet anybody. He just sits there. And he's got a white dust coat on, so, to designate his role in the company. So I pitch up there, good morning, Josiah. I say to him, morning, sir. I said, Josiah, I was told to come and see you. I'm not feeling well. Oh, he raises his eyebrows, but makes no comment. Come inside, sir. So for the first time, I go inside his surgery. Beautiful, immaculate, spotless, tiled from the floor right up to the ceiling. And there's a counter running along all of the wall with wooden drawers underneath, and like a showcase against the one wall on the one side of the room, with all sorts of stuff in there, pills and whatnot. And I look at this, and so I sit down there where he tells me to. Doesn't ask me what's wrong with me. Takes my blood pressure, takes my temperature, opens my eyes, looks in my eyes, sits back. And then I implore him, I say, Josiah, what is wrong with me? So, in a very matter-of-fact way, he answers, malaria. Malaria? Well, that rather knocked me back a little, It wasn't a word that you heard much about in those days, at least I never heard it much. Malaria. I never heard it from any of the doctors that treated me. Nobody over all the years had ever said, oh, your son has got malaria to my folks, or said to me, my boy, you got malaria. Never heard that mentioned. I mean, malaria to me was something like in undeveloped countries and, sort of stuff you read about in a Rider Haggard novel. And here this man is telling me, I've got malaria. So I take a good look at Josiah, and I'm saying to myself, he sounds pretty sure of himself, but, realistically, what does he know? I've been treated by doctors who are called Mister, and they don't talk about malaria, and forgive me, Josiah's just a medical orderly in a factory. So I said, well, what can I do? Stands up, opens the cabinet, brings out a bottle with no label on it, a bottle with a big throat, which it had to have, because he takes out 2 tablets. And they're massive, eh? They're like Wilson's 3X mints. Do you remember them? The kind of thing you can feed to a horse. He puts 2 of them in my hand, he goes and fetches a glass of water, and he says, yeah, take these. I said, Josiah, what is this? So he kind of looks thoughtful, and he shrugs his shoulders, and which I took to mean, well, he doesn't have a name for it, but he's pretty certain I've got to drink it. So I'm desperate, man, I drink this stuff. So I said, will you tell my boss I can go home now? No, he says, you don't need to go home, sir. Go sit in the canteen for an hour or so, and then you'll feel better, you can go to work. So I said, really? He said, yeah. If you don't feel better, he said, if you don't feel better, come back and tell me. All right. So I said, thank you, Josiah. So I go sit in the canteen. Well, it's not very long before the man from Malmesbury comes and looking for me. He's been told I'm there. What are you doing now? I said, I was told to sit here. Josiah told me I must just wait a bit before I go back to work. Well, how long is this going to take? Hurry up about it, Okay, I get on my feet and I go to the factory and, strangely enough, as the afternoon wears on, I'm feeling better and better and better. By the time it comes for me to go home, I'm okay. I ride home on my motorbike and I'm in deep thought, eh? I'm thinking about Josiah. I'm thinking, he's the only guy who really seems to know what's going on with me. And, suddenly I found myself having enormous respect for his skill and his knowledge. Goodness gracious, if you'd asked me then, I would have told you Josiah is underemployed, he's wasting his time in a factory. He should be in charge of hospital. What, they can make him Minister of Health as far as I'm concerned. The guy did something that nobody else had done, just like almost cured me with his magic tablets of his. So thereafter, whenever the dreaded chifua or malaria raised its head, I'm off to Josiah. And he would give me 2 of these tablets, and in no time I would feel better again. So that sorted out that terrible affliction that I had. And I was ever so grateful to him. Oh man, I had a lot of time for Josiah. To me, he was a miracle worker with his magic pills. Now, if you go down Kingsway in those days, you'd get to the main post office. And there was a notice board there, also behind, glass panes. And it was possible to lock this notice board. In other words, people that work at the post office would unlock it, open it up, and they could post notices there, close it again, and lock it, if they remembered. Now, it was on this very notice board where the battalion's orders would be posted. So once a week or so, I would ease my way down to the post office, go and look at the notice board, and see if there were any parades that I needed to be aware of, that I needed to prepare for. And on this one occasion, there had been a schedule with all of the parades, I think for about, it must have been for a quarter, I think, so it was probably for 4 months. Well, that had run out and was still hanging there, but hadn't been replaced by an updated one. So I thought at the time, it's funny, it seemed like a bit of time is going by here. Does the army not want us for parades? What's going on? But I think what happened was that somebody must have forgotten to lock that notice board. And some clever guy had come along and pinned this schedule and taken it home with him and stuck it on his bedroom mirror or something, save him having to write out the dates for the parades. And of course, the rest of us who came along were unaware that there was anything in the offing. So one day, to my surprise, I'm on night shift. There's a knock on the door. There's 2 patrol officers. And they have their Austin B car standing in front of the house. And they have a piece of paper in their hand. They ask for me. Well, I tell them who I am. And they said, yeah, you are. I said, what is this? It's a summons. Summons? Yeah, you must appear in the magistrate's court. What have I done? I'm trying to think, what did I do on my motorbike today? But there's nothing to do with the traffic offences or anything. No, you missed the parade. So I said, but how come you guys are involved in this? This is an army thing. No, it's just normal procedure. This is a criminal offence. You can't miss your military obligations. You have an opportunity of going to report for orders, and they will notify us if you have done so, and then you don't have to appear before a magistrate. But if you don't go for orders and you don't appear in court, we're going to come and arrest you. Do you understand that? Oh man, this is not good news. So no, it's fine, everything's okay. Now, orders is that Friday afternoon, and I'm determined to be there. I don't want no trouble with the army on that level. So there's one problem though, that the time that I must appear before the OC is exactly the time that I finish work. So I need a bit of time off work beforehand so I can go home, get into my number 1 kit, and off to the drill hall. So I approached the man from Malmesbury, and he's got a puzzled look on his face. Sorry, what is this now? I said, on Friday, sir, can you let me go about an hour earlier? And I tell him like I've told you now. You can't go off on a Friday. Friday's a bad day to go off. We've got the whole weekend's work to plan and everything, and I need you here. Well, what is this all about? I tell him I have to go for orders because I missed the parade. Now, he had this erroneous idea that the Territorial Army was like some kind of a glorified Boy Scout movement, something voluntary. And he couldn't understand how was I so irresponsible as to get myself involved with a movement like that when I know I've got work to do and I'm supposed to be doing it. And I tell him, but this is the law. We are compelled to go, and if I'm not there, I'm in serious trouble. No, you can't go off. Make another plan. Tell them you can't make it. So, oh man, yeah, we get to Friday, and I'm in quite a state now. Hey, he won't let me go. So anyway, I get down to the drill hall, but I'm late, which is not the end of the world. But what is the end of the world is that I'm dressed in civvies, because I haven't had an opportunity to go home and get changed. So the CSM looks at me there, and he says, "Whoa, why are you dressed like this?" I said, "I can't help it, sir." And I tell him what kind of a boss I've got. So he says, "All right, I know what's going to happen inside there." He said, I'll get everything else out of the way and I'll put you last, and then we'll see what happens. He said, "But okay, get ready to have your ears chewed off." I said, "It's okay, sir, all right." So now it's my turn. So he says, "Okay, I'm going to double you in. You ready?" I said, "Yeah, I'm ready, sir." Right, double march, left, right, left, right, left, right. My civvy shoes are drumming on the wooden floor of the drill hall. Halt! So I halt. Right turn! Right turn. 3 paces forward, march! 1, 1, 1, 2, halt, stand still! Stand still. So now I'm before the officer commanding. And he looks me up and down, and he explains to me, "Listen, you got a choice. Either I continue with this hearing, or we cut it short, and you go and appear in the civic court. It's up to you. It's your right. What do you want?" So I figured, if I say to him, "Sir, no, I'm quite happy for you to continue," I mean, that's like a little bit of a compliment. I mean, I'm kind of flattering the guy, I'm throwing my trust in his judgmental abilities, surely that counts for something. And I tell him, "Yeah, no, we can proceed, sir, I'm ready." "Okay," he says, he looks at the charge sheet. "Why weren't you at the parade? What's your story?" So I tell him about the notice board, what I suspect, and that cuts me short. He says, "I haven't seen the word notice board on this piece of paper. Why are you telling me about a notice board? You've been charged because you missed a parade, not because somebody forgot to put a piece of paper on a notice board." No, I don't quite know how to respond to that. He says, "But in any case, leave that. We'll talk about that another time. Right now, I want to know why you're in civvies." I tell him again, "My boss, da-da-da. So, Major, I'll see this man next Friday. Please make sure that he's properly dressed when you bring him before me. Is that clear?" "Yes, sir." Okay, so I'm doubled out again. So Major speaks to me outside. He says, "Hey, you're going to have to, pull your socks up. I can see the guy's getting fed up with you. So, please take it to heart. Make a plan next Friday." Oh, dear me. Next Friday, it's a repeat of that same day. The man from Malmesbury is unyielding. In fact, he's starting to get frustrated with me now. And I'm not a guy that takes time off. I've got to tell you, I work at some places for years, never a day off, not a day sick, not a day nothing. And, I do my work. He's not interested. What do? I pitch up at the drill hall again in civvies, again late. Company Sergeant Major looks at me. He says, "You like pushing your luck, eh?" I said, "I don't know what to do, sir. I don't know which way to turn. I'm trying to keep everybody happy in my life, and I'm just upsetting everybody." He said, "Well, let's go inside and see what's going to happen." He said, "But prepare yourself for a torrid time." I said, "Yeah, sir, I know it's coming." Double in again, the whole story, stand in front of the man. But to my surprise, I see the OC is also sitting there now behind his desk in civvies. So, oh, that's a bit strange. But anyway, he cuts to the chase. He's not. We don't even go into why I was absent. Straight away, he wants to know why I'm in civvies. So I said, well, I appealed to my boss and da-da-da-da. He hears me out, and then he says to me, if I have time to go home and get changed into uniform, then so have you. Don't you agree? And I look at this man, my mouth nearly hangs open. He's sitting there in civvies, and he's telling me that he's in uniform. And I can just feel the sergeant major next to me. I can pick up the vibes, eh? Hey, the guy is as stiff as a ramrod. And I can just, it's like telepathy, Don't answer him, don't argue. So I don't know what to say. I just keep quiet. So he says, this is your last warning. You report to me again next Friday. And I'm telling you, if you stand in front of me again in civvies next week, you're going to Brady Barracks, straight into the box. Is that clear? Talk now if you don't understand what I'm telling you. I doubled out there again. Sergeant Major says to me, you're in big trouble, man. So I said, sir, I don't know what I'm going to do. He said, I'll tell you what you do. Next Friday, don't go to work. Go and get yourself booked off, all right? And then in the afternoon, you're going to have plenty of time to get your kit together. You pitch up here, number 1 kit. So Friday morning, I decide, well, okay, look, I tell you what. I'm going to do what the Sergeant Major said. So I find a doctor up in North Avenue, because by that time I haven't got a doctor of my own. I keep away from these people, man. I had no confidence in them. So I find a guy there, and he examines me. It's early morning. He's good enough to see me. And I tell him I got flu. Can he book me off? He listens to my chest and everything, and he says, I don't like what I'm seeing here. He's talking about not just the scar, but I don't know, my condition. So he says, who performed the operation? Mr. Graham. He said, I'm going to have a word with him. All right. I'm going to give you some medication in the meantime. I said, can you book me off? No, it's not necessary. You can go to work. You'll be fine. Just take it easy. So I've got no medical certificate. I go to work. And I've had to take these tablets of his there in his presence as well, which was totally unnecessary. There was nothing wrong with me. So about lunchtime, I go to the man from Malmesbury. And I said, sir, well, I just come to let you know. You won't see me here over the weekend. So you better plan for some other technician to be here on standby, because they're going to be bothering you at home and telling you that the plant needs somebody and that I'm not here. Where will you be? I said, I'll be in jail. What do you mean you'll be in jail? Are you trying to be funny? I'm not trying to be funny, sir. I keep telling you that I'm in serious trouble with the army, and I'm going to be arrested this afternoon. I know I'm going to be arrested, unless you give me time off to go and get changed. I'm not giving you time off. I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm tired of this story of yours. So I said, well, okay. If my folks phone and ask you where I am, you can tell them, well, he left here normal time and he's said something about going to jail, and then they can figure it out from there. So that kind of made him think a little bit, Comes back a little while later. He says, I've just had a word with Mr. Talliot. And Mr. Talliot is the chairman of the company. A man sits in his office. In all the years I worked there, I think I saw him 3 times. You just know his name. He's a busy man, and he's not a guy that bothers himself with the mundane things like production. Been to see Mr. Talliot. He wants you to write all your details down on a piece of paper. I must take it to him. Do that now. What particulars, sir? whatever you people use in the army there, your numbers and whatever. Oh, okay. So I write down my number, rank and name, headquarter company, 1st Battalion, Royal Rhodesia Regiment. And he goes off. Not very long afterwards, to my surprise, he comes back and he says, Mr. Talyat says you don't have to go. I don't have to go. How can Mr. Talyat tell me I don't have to report for orders? Who's Mr. Talyat? He might be a very big boss in this company, which he indeed was, and he can give orders there and people will jump around. He's got no say in the army. You know, I'm still sort of amused at this and thinking about it. And when I get a message, the receptionist wants to see me. I leave the factory, down the passage, off the receptionist there. She gives me the telephone. Call for you. Oh. Take the call. Orderly room from the drill hall. Yeah, listen, you don't have to come for orders this afternoon. All charges are dropped against you. What? You're joking? No, it's not a joke, man. There's no need for you to pitch up yet today. Okay, you got that? I said, how come? I don't know how come. I was told to give you the message. So you sure? I said, I'm sure, man. I said, I don't want to get arrested. You're not going to get arrested, man. Okay. Thanks a lot, eh? Cheers, man. Cheers. So I go back into the factory, and I'm so relieved. I've got to tell you, I'm very relieved. But I've got mixed feelings, because I'm thinking to myself, you know, yeah, it's all very well, you know, not having to attend orders. But how come that civilians, Mr. Talyat presumably picked up the telephone, phoned somebody, and just like that, snap of the fingers, this thing that has been weighing me down has just suddenly vanished into thin air. How can civilians have that kind of power over the military? I didn't like that very much, but I wasn't gonna argue. Well, that may have taken care of the army, but it didn't take care of Mr. Graham. So I get a call from him a few days later. Come and see me, please. So I pitch up there, these consulting rooms. I think it was in Baker Avenue. Yeah. In one of the big buildings, like between Kingsway and First Street. There I go. Quite a few years have passed now since he performed that operation on me, but he hasn't forgotten me, by no means. And so there I have a very thorough examination. And he says to me, listen, my boy, you've got to have another operation. I feared this at the time. I didn't think you'd last as long as this without having to have it, but the time has come. I'm going to have to do the other side now. No ways. I protest. I said, I'm okay. No, he said, you're not okay. How can you say you're okay? Do you feel okay? So I'm thinking of Josiah, and I look at Mr. Graham's office there. He's got diplomas and certificates, and there's stuff hanging on the wall. And I mean, this guy's got a reputation second to none. I can't say to him, look, Josiah has cured me. Who's Josiah? Josiah is a guy who works in the factory. He's got no certificates hanging up in his surgery there. But man, he's got those magic pills. I can't talk to him like that, so I say nothing, but I'm thinking it. So he says, well, go have a chat with your parents and tell them to come see me. If they want to, I can give them more details. But you can't delay this, eh? You've got to have it soon. So I'm not very happy, eh? My folks hear about this, and they say, you must listen to the man. He knows what he's doing. How can you say you don't need it when he tells you need an operation? And even my friends that I share this with, I tell them, I'm not feeling like a man. The doctor wants to do another operation on me. I'm not happy about it. All of them, with one voice, said, you must go, you must go. So I'm under pressure from everybody, so I end up back again in hospital, and I have another operation. I'm not there as long as I was the first time, but anyway, cuts me open, takes out a few ribs as he did the previous time, off with a chunk of my lung, sews me up again, and I'm discharged. So, and I don't feel better for it, eh? I've got to tell you, I don't. And then I get a call from the army. Report to KG6 barracks for a medical board. So on the day appointed, I'm down there at KG6. Went down to the hospital and into a room there. And it really was a proper board, long table. I think there were 3 medical doctors over there, majors, sitting behind the table, and I had to sit in front of them at another chair. So when they had now finished their deliberations, they all stood up, and one and all reached across the table and shook my hand, thanked me for my service, and wished me well, and apologized on behalf of the army for having put me through what they thought was a terrible experience. But I mean, I didn't think that anybody needed to apologize to me. These were officers and gentlemen. So I left there, drove on out of those gates, and all I had to do was go and hand in my kit at the drill hall, and I was done with the army. They sent me confirmation documents later saying that I had been permanently medically discharged. So the last I saw of the 1st Battalion Royal Rhodesia Regiment was when they marched through the streets of Salisbury, drums beating, bayonets fixed. And I stood there watching them go down First Street, and I thought, I could so easily have been amongst them, but it wasn't to be. I was out of it and free to get on with my life now, with no military commitments whatsoever. Well, there's an old saying which I'm sure you're familiar with, that it ain't over until the fat lady sings. And over across the ocean, in communist China and in communist Russia, there were 2 fat ladies that were beginning to sing. So nothing was over, eh? And you and I don't know what is around the next corner for us. But I'm going to stop here now, because I've got a feeling that I've been talking for a long time. So thank you all. We'll continue the story. It ain't over, eh? God bless you all. Cheers for now.